Checo, Checo! Born to roll!
All right, welcome to another episode of Born to Roam. I don't know how long it's been since we did the last one, but I think it's very awesome that we can continue with the wonderful, legendary Mr. Wade MacNeil.
It's great to be here in this Swiss hamlet of Hamilton.
Yes, we are in Westdale, Ontario, undisclosed location. And as you can see, probably it is a beautiful, beautiful day. And we're here to talk about rock and roll and other things. And let's start off with talking about something beautiful. Your new song, under the name Doom's Children, is fucking sweet, man. And I just have a question right off the top. For a guy who has not been able to kind of penetrate into the realm of Grateful Dead, where do you begin?
Where do you start? Tough place. It's, I think, everyone has all these ideas about the Grateful Dead because it's such a big part of culture. And then I think what they actually sound like is vastly different from what you would imagine. You know, they sound like Americana. They sound like, there's obviously all these different eras of the band, but it's very folky in 60s, then kind of Americana, and then eventually they're writing tunes that sound like the water skiing sequence in a John Candy film. And so, how do you get there? How do you get in? I think a wonderful place for people to start, because it is the hugest wormhole of music that exists, which is exciting. I think a great place to start is by watching the documentary, A Long Strange Trip. And that just, explains the start of the band. It explains the kind of where they were all coming from, what they were doing musically. And also kind of all the people, the counterculture people that are involved in the beginning of it, that are synthesizing LSD for the first time. The community of musicians that are around them in San Francisco.
Your Timothy Leary's.
All these people. And it's so fascinating. And I think that's a great way to start.
I did see the other one, or that movie about Bob. Is it Bob Weir? Yeah, that was a great movie. I watched it when I was very high though, so I don't remember any of the music, but I remember liking it. But then I don't remember. It's funny because the Grateful Dead's iconography is obviously some of the most famous imagery of the second half of the 20th century. It's everywhere. And it kind of, I almost assumed that before I heard their music, that they were a hardcore band because of how well that skull symbol fits in amongst a Crass symbol or a Dead Kennedy symbol. I just assumed that I didn't know they were from the 60s.
I think that's part of the difficulty of diving in with the band, is because there's so much that surrounds it. Like that, like all the images, like the band, if a band's lucky, most bands, maybe they have a good logo. The Grateful Dead have 10 iconic different logos. And so everyone has all these ideas about what it is. Like you said, you thought it was a hardcore band. I always imagined it sounded something like Pink Floyd, like Pompeii stuff, like really drugged out psych.
Yeah.
Because of the psychedelic movement that surrounds the band.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really not. I think a cool place to start is right at the beginning. Working Man's Dead is great, and it's just kind of very well crafted 60s kind of folk tunes.
Yeah.
And then, if you start feeling a bit of that, once you like it, you can start diving into the live stuff, which is just
a universe,
the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bootleg, it doesn't sound like they're is a bigger bootleg community probably than the Grateful Dead bootleg community.
Yeah, I want to say there's something like there's probably more than 4,000 recorded shows.
That is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, there's so many aspects of the band. I can only probably name 2 or 3 songs by the band, but yet I know so much about I can at least picture so much about the band, like obviously the wall of sound stuff and their super innovative. Like that, it's pretty much the coolest stage setup of all time.
And also kind of a basis of modern touring production.
Yeah.
You know, like because you hear those stories about the Beatles playing at Shea Stadium and
with AC-30s and
it was just
up the
coming
drums.
through the like announcer speakers.
Yeah, and it was just the vocals,
right?
Yeah.
So, like no one was playing big gigs or doing it well, and then. Yeah, so like the Dead were, pioneers like on that front.
Yeah.
And just in a lot of different ways. And it's really interesting.
How did you kind of find the psychedelic music? Has it always been a part of your life, or was it just, did it find you at the right time?
I think it found me totally at the right time. I think 2 years ago, I was like wildly depressed and just felt like my life was kind of falling apart. And I was just really struggling, and I could not listen to like punk or rap or anything really aggressive. Like I was just like, I can't pile on to the way I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Already. And I think that was around the time I kind of started listening to the Dead, and it's just this incredibly peaceful, like kind sounding music.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I connected with it at that time and kind of started diving in really deep. Almost just, I don't know, protecting myself from more aggressive things.
Yeah.
Were pushing me into a worse zone.
You needed to reverse the inertia of where you were heading. And so do you remember the exact kind of point of entry that you kind of had? Did you hear a song, or did you just see it come up on Spotify one day and say, hey, let's give it a spin? Or
I think I was trying to find my way into it.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of going through the different eras, and they've got a song called Shakedown Street, which is almost like a bit of a disco song. And I was just like, this is mental.
Yeah.
And I think I just started listening to that on repeat, and then just found my way in.
That's awesome. It's always awesome when you hear like when you're kind of in the pits, at least with the current music that you've always listened to, and it's just not quite doing it for you the same way as it has, and you don't quite get the same hit of endorphins that you need out of it, and then you find a piece of music that almost like, I don't know, sometimes I'll hear something where I'm like, wait a second, you're not allowed to do that in a song. And that'll just blow my fucking mind and make me love music again, and
sure.
Make your hair stand on edge all over again, like you're 14 listening to Nirvana in your bedroom. Like rock and roll rules. That's all we're trying to say, folks. That's all we're trying to say. Well, that's super cool that you found that at the right time. And so was it a kind of quick transition to say, I want to make music like this?
I think out of that same feeling of like struggling in my personal life, I thought, why don't I try and also write a record that is nice. And like focus my songwriting not on writing some heavy tunes or lyrics that are kind of bleak. And try and make something that's nice as well. So I think those were two things that were going on simultaneously. And then, maybe there was probably about a year of trying to figure out how to do that. And almost like kind of not getting it right. Like I tried to record the record in Halifax with Joel Plaskett.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. I went out to
Scotland Yard.
Yeah. I went out to Scotland Yard with Joel, and Joel was going to play guitar on it. And I brought some friends, and we started doing it, and I brought punks.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake. And I was just like, this sounds like heavy Neil Young. Like, this ain't it.
Yeah.
And Joel was just like, after one of the days, he's like,
I don't know.
This isn't it.
Yeah.
This isn't what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a wonderful weekend of doing guitar solos with Joel.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
hanging out in Dartmouth.
That sounds like a pretty goddamn good weekend.
It was great.
Yeah.
And we like spun records and fucking ate oysters and it was cool.
Yeah.
But we got nothing done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like kind of coming out of that and being like, okay, well, how can I find the right drummer and how can I play differently to soften this stuff up and even in writing soft music, like some of it needs to be fuzzy and cut through and just, it was making a completely different record than I've ever made, and so, kind of retooling the songs and then recording them out here in Ontario with Dan and Ian Romano. And really making it clicked.
Yeah.
When I did it with those dudes.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys are definitely studio wizards in terms of getting cool sounds. And, Dan in the studio is a formidable beast in terms of his. Yeah.
And just, I think they understand all of the references.
Yeah, they got it.
They're also similarly, like, I don't think we've had a similar music trajectory, but like probably one of my first shows, like one of Dan's first shows, like his high school punk band was playing and so was mine. And so I think, he's done this crazy amount of music outside of all that, but he also like knows all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Cause it's not just, it's not just straight jam band stuff.
No.
And so, they were definitely the right guys to work with on it. And then also just in the studio, understanding the references, but also knowing how to do it.
Yeah. How to execute.
Like, to a point of, like I remember there was this point when I was like, what's really cool is that, or actually it was Pat. There's a guitar player from Montreal, Pat Bennett, that played on the record as well. He was the only punk that was left allowed to play on the record. And Pat was like, well, it would be great if we could do like a kind of like Velvet Underground, like bass line that like keeps cycling, like it's the same riff, like the whole time. And then Dan was like, oh, well, what's great about that riff you're talking about is like there's a third played on every note. And we're like, okay, so not only like do you know the exact reference, but you also know how it was recorded.
Yes.
And so there was I think Dan brought that to the record a lot.
Yeah, a lot of being able to, pull things from the ether and actually execute them.
For sure.
Obscure references too. That's awesome. I mean, I've always been in awe of everything that those guys are able to lay down. Dan has made some wild sounding records during the course of this.
Wild.
Yeah, in the with a capital W. But no, that is awesome. And again, like, it's I'm glad you point that out for people that haven't checked out Doom's Children yet. It's fucking awesome. But what you said too about, keeping the psychedelia, but also, having still, you still have one foot in the gutter. Like it's still, it's still rock and roll,
Sure. It all is.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, I mean, certain songs go off on a tangent, but they're all songs I wrote on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
That can all be like stripped down to that.
Have you ever done that before? Written a record on an acoustic guitar? And
I tried to when I wrote the first Black Lungs record. But I think waiting too long to put it out and probably a lack of self-confidence in knowing what I wanted it to be.
Was that Pagan Holiday?
No, there's one called Send Flowers.
Okay.
That I wrote that was, it sounded like a Billy Bragg record.
Oh, wow.
When I made it. And then I just kept adding stuff because I was like, what does this need?
This
or this? Like, I sat on the record for 2 years while Alexis toured and, was like adding trombones by the end. And like, I knew what I wanted this to be.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yes. This was a very, very deliberate kind of
Big time.
Yeah, it feels so. It must feel so good to be able to, you obviously you had a first kind of attempt with Joel and out east at it, but to get to just like have a very focused vision with a kind of a revised plan and execute it and come off so well, that's got to feel great.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool. Like the one song's out, there'll be another one coming out, and hopefully within the next like 3 weeks, and just like putting out songs all summer.
Hell yeah.
Before the full length comes out. But I mean, it's so far away from a lot of stuff I've done that I feel like at this point, I feel like I know so much about music and I know nothing at all about it. So I was just like, I don't know. I like this. Does anybody give a fuck about this at all? Like, is just an insane record for me to put out? Is this the most self-serving thing ever? And people seem to be like really connecting with it, which is really cool. And maybe it just comes down to honesty, like it's just like a really personal record, and maybe that's what people are fucking with.
Yeah, and the lyrics are great and very, even Flower Moon, the lyrics are super clear, and it's almost classic, almost like Almond Brothers lyrics to start it off, which I love the Almond Brothers, which is weird that I've never been able to
best.
I've never been able to get. I have not yet tried the Grateful Dead really in earnest, but I am a big Almond Brothers guy, which is strange. But it's a good you feel like you're riding a Harley in a moonlit desert, dude. A great song. It's a great vibe.
It's the best. I really like riding my motorcycle listening to the Almond Brothers.
Okay.
And every time I do it, I'm just like, man, people have been doing this for like 40 years.
Yeah.
I was just like, whenever I do, I'm like listening to Whipping Post, riding my bike, and I'm like, man, people have been doing this exact thing for so long. It makes me so fucking happy.
Yeah. You're just paying it forward. You're keeping it alive, You're keeping it alive.
Yeah.
Well, that's super cool, man. I mean, was it in the way that you're kind of describing it, it sounds like it was a fun place to be also because there was no expectations and have it, you've been associated with other, huge projects where there's different types of expectations and things around them. And this sounds like just such a pure, I'm feeling this in the moment, I'm doing it, and now it's coming out. That is maybe, it's less constrained by the baggage that maybe some of the other more bigger projects that you have to work on. Is that a fair assessment?
I'd say so. I mean, if you're lucky enough for people to care about the music you're making, the more music you make, it creates walls around it,
Yeah.
And I think Alexis did a good job of continuing to grow as a band and kind of knocking that stuff down. And but certainly when I joined Gallows, I was like, there's rules.
Yeah, man.
For this. And I mean, a lot of them were self-imposed, but I was like, when we made that first record, I was like, this needs to just be a violent shot of energy. It needs
come out
to
swinging.
It needs to be that,
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did that.
Yeah. It's
but that being said, it's a nicer place to be when you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There was a little bit more like this is a thing that happened when we made the Dooms Kids record. I left to get everyone lunch, and I came back, and Dan recorded all these David Bowie oohs in the chorus and played a wine bottle like a percussion instrument and played it back for me. And I was like, he's like, what do you think about this? I'm like, it's the best. Now here's your egg salad sandwich. And that definitely wasn't happening on the Gallows record. There was no egg salad.
No.
There was no Bowie ooze,
No wine bottles.
No wine bottles played.
No.
Smashed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's a nice place to be.
Yeah. That sounds like just a jolly old time making that record, or the Dooms Children one.
Yeah, it was good, man. We recorded it in a house.
Yeah.
And just trying to make it, one of the things I said about trying to find the way to make it sound like I wanted to, like the records I love from the 60s and the 70s. So we just played it. You know, the songs are 4 of us playing together. You know, we track the solos afterwards.
Did you track all the bed tracks together?
All the bed tracks are recorded together.
Awesome.
And then we do the solos and we just like very casually, I'd be like, I'm going to take one. And then we'd be like, cool. Like we do it once.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Dan, can you do something that kind of like rips in and out of that? And he's like, I don't know, something like this.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, that's it. And so, and similarly with the vocals, I didn't refine everything. I didn't try and like, when my voice kind of goes to nothing, you know, or like I lost a word or was a little bit pitchy, I was just like, well, that's the way I sing. So that's the way it is. And all of those decisions over the course of making the record are what makes it sound the way it does and makes it probably sound closer to the records that I love.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I mean, that's a new thing in itself,
Yeah.
having the restraint to not fix it.
Yeah, that takes time. Is like before we started rolling, we were talking about like that there is no one way to make a record, and that like at different times in your musical arc, you have different approaches to things. And I think it's easy to fall into or get attracted to the mentality of like trying to punish imperfections into chasing perfection, basically, and it really in retrospect having a serious point of diminishing returns.
Sure.
And
I mean, you can go pretty far with that idea, and I think we went very far away from that on this Dooms Children record. To a point where it's like some of the solos are like there's some wild notes.
Yeah.
And then like, I know Dan was like, what about that? Like where it went super major, and I was like, what are notes?
Yeah.
And we were just like, what are notes?
What are notes, dude? Dude, threw the theory out the window. I love it.
What are notes?
Dude, they're nothing. It's nothing. It's just vibrations, man. We're all just vibrations. I was just pointing at the camera.
That was at the camera. I was like, is Ross here?
Yeah. I wish he was, but I was gonna say there was like when we're playing music, speaking of Ross, as the nil, and we're playing in the basement, and if I play any kind of chord that isn't a major or maybe a minor, I call it a sus chord because it sounds pretty suspect.
It's great.
I hate theory. Don't be like me. If you learn theory, your life will probably be better. But.
Yeah, it might be better, eh?
Yeah,
I think at this point for us, we need to convince ourselves that it's like, it's a good idea not knowing it.
Yeah, it keeps me free, but at the same time, I only know how to play this.
I'm like, it's good. I don't know how to sing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to a vocal coach once or not a vocal coach, like someone to check my vocal cords because they got really fucked up. And the guy comes back in after, he did all the tests, and he's like, you don't know how to sing. He's like, you don't even know how to talk. You don't know how to breathe. And I was like, whoa. And then he like listed off something like, he's like, get up, immediately warm up your voice before speaking. No tea, no coffee, no smoking, no dairy. Like he keeps going. I was like, okay, I'm not Celine Dion, and I'm not going to do any of this. So could you just maybe, what's like one thing?
Yeah. Pick the top one.
He's just like, no dairy. And I was like, it's just pass.
Yeah. What else you got? Oh my God.
You don't know he's like, you don't even know how to talk.
That's one of the greatest stories of all time about singing. I have to say, I had Ross told me that one. I think you told him it during when you guys were making that Single Mothers record, but that is one of my favorite stories of all time. Sorry, might have to cut here for a second while I clear my tears. Anyways, on that note, I wanted to talk a little bit about Alexis, because I have some super just kind of like basic questions that I have grappled with since I have had my own band that I play in. And I just, What are the basic mechanics of operating within a band that has 3 frontmen?
A lot of cooks in the kitchen.
A lot of cooks. Got a couple sauciers.
Well, I think the basic mechanics of it have continued to change over time. And the better it gets musically and the better it gets for writing is us all knowing when to get out of the way.
Yeah.
So like, and I mean, that just happens over our discography. Mm-hmm. It's like the first record is George, Dal, and I all coming from bands where we were being the front man of the band. And so we're all doing it at the same time on the first record. And it's a wild mix of things. And then I think, over time, maybe the second record and a bit on the first record also is the first time Dal and I really played with another guitar player and realized what we could do with another guitar going on. So there's like, we're both the lead guitar player at the same time. And so that was a thing I think after a while we like tried to move away from. And also just, after playing all the notes on the first couple records, I was like, what I really like is like smaller melodic lead stuff. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
And so, I think over the course of the band's life has just been figuring out how to get out of the way and knowing when we should do that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's always kind of struck me as a very mysterious balance that you guys have been able to strike between arranging your songs in a way that you guys have some very interesting arrangements, particularly on the first couple records that I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in the jam space or however you guys got those songs together in terms of how you negotiated what was going to go where, because it's very, very, I had never heard anything like it when it came out. And I'll never forget hearing your band on Much Music and The Edge and just being like, this is I can't believe such heavy music is playing on The Edge. And it was definitely a very interesting time in Canadian music. The first thing I was struck by, even when I was like 12, 13 years old, was how do you make music like this? I don't understand. Like, it's so intense and everything's firing and, it's just, I'd never heard anything like it. But I was just kind of curious. That's a pretty comprehensive description of how you are able to navigate potentially very,
I think we always kind of tried to do, and I mean, this is just a general thing with the band, kind of counterintuitive things. The thing that would be obvious, we would probably try and do the opposite of it. So, I mean, even just as, it started to, Dal's voice like got stronger, obviously, the more he sang and he became the singer that he's become, the prime minister of folk music in Canada, right? Yeah. So I think there would have been an obvious point for us to just go like, we'll just get Dal to sing all the time, which is why we never worked with producers. Yeah. Because anytime a big producer would be in the mix, he'd be like, yeah, you know what I'm thinking? Have the guy that sings really, really good sing a lot more. Yeah. How about that?
Here's what I'm thinking.
And we're like, yeah, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of, maybe trying to flip that.
Yeah.
In the right and the structuring of the songs and being like, well, it'd be pretty obvious if like Dal jumped in with a big melodic thing here. So like, let's not do that.
Yeah. Interesting. Like I can only imagine the kind of pressure that you guys face, like, especially like a couple records in and as, things were continuing to build and that pressure that I remember, this is a bit of a sidestep, but, your dad was my orthodontist.
Sick.
Gave him braces. Thanks again. But I was talking to him when I was like, 14 years old. And I was like, you're Wade's dad. Oh my God. And he's just like, yeah. My son plays guitar in that band. And I remember your dad even telling me then during the first consultation, he's like, yeah, I mean, the record guy said to them, like, I've never heard such a melodic band in my whole life, but why do they have to be so screamy at the same time and make all that racket? And I remember even just recognizing, even being 14, getting my braces put on, like, this band's under external pressure to change immediately. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing we're so stubborn.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't feel like I don't think we felt the pressure of it. I think we were so wrapped up in it, like just wrapped up in being a band, playing shows all the time. And things like things when they started to connect, like connected pretty quick.
Yeah.
But we were working so much. I don't think we ever stepped back to go like, oh, like, what can we do here? Or like, we were very focused and we worked very hard and wanted to like grow the band. But I don't think our goals were ever growing the band in a way that wasn't, let's get better live and let's make better records.
Yeah.
And that was like the singular focus of everything we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't know, I'm glad those ideas weren't in our minds when we were writing tunes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You never know. Mm-hmm. Like maybe, when John Feldman was like, listen, you guys got to come to LA. You got to do this. Got to be around the right people. Got to write the right songs. Got to wear the right clothes. Like said all this stuff. We're like, what? He was probably right. But we were just like, no.
Yeah.
Everything you have described is what we do not want to do right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could have been to a fault in some respects, like us trying to do the antithesis of everything all the time. A funny thing that got brought up, like, we were talking, but we're not fucking doing that, like with some new stuff we're doing. And then our manager brought up about, like, maybe it was Crisis at the time. And he's like, well, remember when Crisis could have come out like as Guitar Hero? Like the full record? Like on Guitar Hero as the video game? And you guys were like, no way we're doing that. That's stupid. And I was like, is that a thing we turned down? And he was like, yeah, it's a thing you turned down. I was like, oh, big mistake.
Oh, that is a dinger, man.
Yeah, it's a good one, eh?
Oh, that is a good one, man.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh, dude. Well, I mean, I would say that out of everyone that I've had the honor and the privilege of speaking to in the world of, rock and roll, that the vast majority of people have the same kind of story of resisting external pressure and doing what they want, even if it comes at a fault. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to live with the art you made and the stuff that you did. And
of course.
You wouldn't feel good if some schmoozer talked you into an Abercrombie and Fitch ad.
No, for sure, man. Like,
even if it made you $1 million.
We're very lucky that you and me get to play guitar for a living.
Yeah.
And it's something I take very seriously, especially in the way of like people are listening, and that just like
is nuts.
It's nuts, but it's really important that, like, well, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
And the world doesn't need any more fake love songs. The world doesn't need any more formulaic shit.
No.
And so, like, if we're like put on, like, I want Alexis to do something weird. I want us to do something that is different, that maybe exposes people to a different way of thinking, a different style of music, something different. I think that's probably one of the things that I'm the most proud about the stuff we've done, is being able to, when things became larger for us, it just allowed us to go like, well, we don't need to compromise on anything.
Yeah.
And we can bring whoever we want on the road with us. And like, and just like stuff like that. We're like, and we started listening to you guys and we're like, great. Like, just like, let's bring him to Australia. You know, like we get to do shit like that.
Yeah.
You know,
thank you again for bringing us
for
to
sure.
Australia.
It was great. But then, yeah, for maybe Alexis to be a gateway for people to find out about more heavy records or different subcultures. You know, there was always a funny thing. I think for a long time, maybe I associated the band having commercial success to like that being a weird thing. Mm-hmm. That's a weird thing for anybody that I think comes from punk. Mm-hmm. And, but I think after a while I realized that the guys that have like the tragedy back patches on their coats weren't giving me the cut eye.
No.
At the show, they're like, usually one of those guys would come over and be like, yo, man, the first record, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're not mad?
Yeah.
You're not mad at all. You're just like, you're really crusty and you saw us in 2003.
Yeah.
How wonderful is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just have this one thing. They had this like, I mean, that
was like an entry point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing about like, I mean, I guess one of the tougher aspects of rock and roll culture is that, you know, people really fall in love with like sometimes a particular like a moment in time, and they hate watching a bit like things change, and they don't like watching it get bigger or whatever it is, you know. And
there's a lot of those along the way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's a million different steps of it. Like, and I'm sure you guys had it, like the people that were like, oh man, I remember seeing them play house shows.
Yeah.
And then when it's like, oh, when I first got into them, like they're playing small bars.
There's people that say we stopped being cool when we started using tuners on stage.
That's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, like there's people that can be like, you know, oh man, I saw Alexis play like I liked it when they were playing at Squats in upstate New York.
Yeah.
Like when they're playing at punk houses or it sucks this band's on the radio now. I remember seeing them at an abandoned marina in Barrie, Ontario.
An abandoned marina?
So, you know, maybe you're not stoked on the amphitheater shows if you were at the abandoned marina show.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the abandoned marina for a second.
I was about to ask. Please elaborate.
So this was like when the band started, I was booking all of our shows.
Okay.
And
with like a Hotmail account?
With like a Hotmail account and maybe some ICQ.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was putting on punk shows in St. Catharines and bringing bands through and then just trying to, you know, link up with bands around Southern Ontario and
network and
and do the thing. And so remember the Barrie show, we were playing at a band's jam space.
Okay.
They're gonna throw a show and they're like, it's cool, we'll like have a party and we practice there and whatever. And we're just like driving into the woods. Right? And so we're driving there and so everyone's like, fuck, Wade, like what is this show? Like what the fuck? So we get there and it's just like a dilapidated building by the water. And they're like, well, go in, Wade. See when we're loading in, you know, like you fucking idiot. And then we got there and it was like one of the kids' dads, like a marina that was like fallen in disrepair and they rehearsed there. And the floor that we played on was like almost like caving in.
Yeah.
And it was the best.
Yeah.
Like it was a party. They threw a party at this abandoned spot. And we were like right by the water and it was a great one. Oh. You know, everyone like you know, we got back in the van. I was like, okay.
Hey,
right?
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's those ones that work out to be like
the
best ones, right?
Yeah. Like that. We played like around this time we played a barn in Uxbridge, Ontario.
Oh wow.
Like legit, like on dirt.
Yeah.
Like with like I could see a cow.
Yeah.
And I was
within
like,
eyesight.
And I was like, is that cool? Should that cow be here?
Yeah.
And the promoter was like, cow's here for all the shows. Don't worry about it. It's like, I am.
Yeah. Yeah, he's cool. He likes it. It's all good. It's like
No, he's cool.
Yeah, he's chill. Don't worry. It's like that one. There's that one photo that's all like kind of always used on that like band memes page or all those funny Instagram pages about rock and roll, but it's like a bunch of guys that like, I think it must be like an early 2000s new metal show, and there's like a goat.
Oh,
like,
grindcore goat.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the one.
yeah.
Never mind.
Incredible.
Grindcore. Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must have been.
I don't know why I think it's a grindcore show.
Yeah.
I feel like it's in like Slovenia too.
Yeah.
These could be all things I'm just imagining.
Yeah, but I like the picture you're painting.
Yeah.
It sounds believable. Slovenia sounds like a very believable place where that concert was held.
You guys ever play any shows with dogs in attendance?
We've had some dogs running around some house parties once or twice. We were the house party or the house band at Guelph University for a few years. About 10 years ago, it's kind of where we kind of cut our teeth a bit and we'd just learn a bunch of covers and stuff, and like we'd play everything from like we'd learn like Steppenwolf songs and then I don't even like, we were just playing weird obscure, like we were playing like Link Ray stuff and like Fucking Up Young also, and like it would have been
People are like, oh my God, band, think they'll do Sublime?
Yeah.
Think these guys are going to do Santeria?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Link Ray.
Also, yeah, no tuners. Yeah.
Incredible.
Playing for it would always be like, well, you guys can play. We'd love you to play. We can't pay you, but we do have a keg, and as long as you guys don't go crazy, y'all can sip from the keg. And anyways, that was good enough for us. We just wanted to play, but we have the same PA system still as a band that we started the band with. The thing is, it's like it looks like it's made it through a war, but I don't know why I thought about that.
We still have, there was like the punk bar in St. Catharines was the Mind Bomb.
Okay.
And it's like, I played like, well, that was like the first actual bar I played, you know, and Dow was playing shows there and stuff. And we've got the Mind Bomb's PA.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is sick.
I don't know how.
I don't know. You inherit these things, you know? It's
not really loud enough.
No,
it's just year 20 of the band.
Yeah, you just
not a loud enough PA.
Yeah, you just kind of grow complacent. Like
every once in a while, I go to a band's place and I'm just like, you can. I've forgotten that you could rehearse in nice conditions.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
Why haven't I done? Why aren't I doing that?
Yeah, I've just grown to accept that like our PA system is like only 2 of the channels work and shit. It's got like out of 16 knobs, maybe 2 left on it.
We're at year 20 and George has got like a really short mic cable.
He's got to stand really close.
He's got to stand real close to it.
Yeah. Yeah, but not too close or it'll feed back. Like
yeah, you unplug. As soon as the song's done, unplug the mic.
Yeah, he's got a homemade kill switch on the mic. Yeah.
Happy 19th birthday to the band.
Yeah.
I get George a slightly longer mic cable.
Yeah, and a karaoke mic.
Yeah.
We used to practice also before we had we had purchased or rented from the good folks at Long McQuaid the head and the speakers, but we had 2 mics from Radio Shack taped to a hockey stick in 2 bins full of Lego. Like that's how we
That's how the pros do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's that was some magic right there. That was yeah. Still have those bins, man. Anyways, yeah, I agree with you though. Sometimes you see people's PA systems, and you're like, wow, like you guys have. I forgot that you can also invest in a PA. It doesn't have to be garbage, but here we are with our garbage PA. We actually shared a jam space with the Arkells about 7 years ago. They very kindly said, you know what, you guys, Hamilton band, you guys can share this space with us. And I don't think they were rehearsing very often, and we were using it all the time. Mm-hmm. And we had definitely kind of like encroached and kind of like claim that territory with just like garbage everywhere and using their equipment. And they eventually kind of passive aggressively left the place because we had kind of taken over it too much. And we were definitely the assholes in this situation. So apologies to the Arkells. But to this day, once in a while, I'll look over and see like a little like Arkell stencil on some of our equipment that I guess we accidentally lifted from.
There's no way the Arkells have a shitty jam space.
No, I don't think so anymore. No.
They got like a soda stream.
Yeah, I'm sure
for
they
sure.
do. Yeah, like
multiple
one of those new
flavors.
Ones. Yeah, like a digital.
They got flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they got flavors for sure.
They got flavors.
Yeah. Oh, they got flavors. Yeah. Bubbly name brand. No, but that is fucking hilarious. It's good to compare bad jam spaces. Are there any other kind of like hilarious early Alexis on Fire gigs that come to mind, or like you guys did the Warped Tour too? Like,
yeah, I mean that's not hilarious.
It's not.
It's like a big guy punching you in the stomach repeatedly.
It's the dark carnival.
So dark. Yeah. I mean there's a lot of funny. It's a lot of funny stuff. Like I remember we played this. And this is just bizarre. We played this show in like Texas, and there was these Mexican skinhead guys, like, and they were like, we finished our first song, and they were like, play Screwdriver, and they were just like, between all of our songs, like, demanding Screwdriver songs, and I was like, it's really weird. Really weird. These Spanish guys want to hear white power music.
Yeah.
Also, what are skinheads doing at this show?
Yeah.
I feel like, just like you see an actual racist skinhead guy is like seeing a unicorn. Like,
yeah.
I mean, maybe they're making a bit of a comeback. But it was just like, that was very weird. I guess that's not very funny. It's not very lighthearted.
But it's remarkable.
It's very fucking odd.
Yeah, that is weird. It's yeah, when you're playing in the punk clubs all around, especially the United States, you definitely encounter some interesting cross sections of the country. to put it as diplomatically as possible. But what was like? I know
there's got to be some more lighthearted stories that aren't coming to mind right now. That
any good like tour pranks? Like I know that's like a kind of standard question, but
I feel like we didn't like fuck around with that stuff too much.
No,
like I don't really like it.
Yeah, like being sabotaged on stage is not the funnest in the world, is it? I
guess like on a very early tour, we're on tour with this band called Remembering Never from Florida. This kind of like mosh metal band. I forget what they did to start it. Okay. Something happened. We were driving, they drove by us, they started throwing stuff at us on the highway.
Okay.
On the way to the gig.
Okay.
They're like a vegan band. When they came out after their show, just hamburgers all on the windshield of their van. And they're like, okay. So then we go inside and play. We come out. So they got a kid from the show to take a shit on our fucking windshield. Maybe this is why I don't like pranks. This escalated so quick. And we were just like, too much.
Yeah.
And then we're like, who did you get to do that? And they pointed the kid out, and we were just like, this is over, guys.
Yeah, this is done.
But I remember playing there again, because this was in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Okay.
At the Police Athletic League.
Okay.
Which used to do hardcore shows.
What?
And so we were back there, we were playing with Bane.
Okay.
And it was like outside of Boston, so it was fucking
huge
psycho.
Show. Yeah.
Like the band's just like getting knocked over, like they're completely in a circle of people. And I remember they started playing, and I was like, oh my God, it's that fucking guy that shit on our fucking van. I see him right away, right? And like he's like getting in the pit, and some guy fucking spin kicked him in the face so fucking hard, his fucking face exploded. Right? And then this is like 5 minutes later, I'm in the washroom and a guy comes in with his like all fucked up face. And he's like, oh, like scrambling. He's like, obviously doesn't realize it's the guy from the band who he shit on their van. And he's like looking for a towel or whatever. And he's like, oh my God, he's like, can you give me a towel or like some toilet paper? He's like freaking out. And I was just like, no, man. So that was it. Full circle. Pranks.
I think that has to be one of the greatest tour stories I've ever heard. I
was like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, no fucking way. And then he got kicked in the face, and I was like, no fucking way. And then he came up to me, and I was like, no fucking way. So maybe the pranks just got very harsh.
Yeah.
Right away, and we just like steered clear of them for the rest of our career.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. An early experience like that will definitely kind of sour you to the whole.
Right to the shit? Not lighthearted at all.
No steps in between.
No.
Hamburgers, feces. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. That's where we're going. Damn, dude. That's crazy. Oh, damn. I don't even know where to go from there.
There's just so much of that stuff, though. And I think, it's like I've got to be around one of the dudes from Alexis or like somebody we played with to almost like kickstart the thing. You know what I mean? Like to remember like the absurd thing. You know? Like someone asked me about George wearing shorts.
Yeah.
Like which George did for a long time. George just started wearing like really small denim shorts. And that was it when we were playing in Chuck's. And I was like, well, that's actually because we were playing in Connecticut. We're playing this outdoor show, and there was like this big list of rules. And it was like, no gang colors, no smoking, no like all this list of things, like no weapons, all this stuff that there should be no's at the show. And then the bottom one was like, no shorts. And so just being an asshole, George just like cut his jeans off into like the shortest shorts when we played that night. And Bam Margera was there for some reason. And he was like, that's really funny. Do you guys want to come back and party at my house? And then we did.
Wow.
And Rusty from H2O drove our bus because the bus driver was sleeping. So just a guy on the tour drove our bus to Bam Margera's house. And I think we got the invite because of the shorts.
Oh my God. That is so dangerous, driving the old tour bus with the
It's insane. It's insane.
In where, Connecticut?
Just one guy,
who knows?
Who knows, Connecticut.
Yeah. Wow, that is a good one.
Yeah. And then he just proceeds to wear shorts for like 4 years.
That just became the
because
thing.
of that venue.
Yeah.
And Bam's encouragement.
Yeah, that's like being forbidden to do it, and then the positive reinforcement of Bam Margera telling you to do it. That's enough.
all you need.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's all
that
you
seals
need.
it. Yeah. That is funny.
So there's like so much of that shit where I just feel like it's, someone's got to be like, do you remember when? And then it's almost like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's funny. Like when we put out a record at the beginning of this year, and a lot of the end questions after it gets past the record questions is like, any funny tour stories, and my mind is like just a blank. It's like I've played a fucking quadrillion shows. I can't remember, like, and then like I'll be with Kyle or Ross, and then it's just like, oh yeah, then just a million, it's weird. It's funny how like there's so many memories that they all try and come out of my brain at once and nothing can get out. Like, but I just need one other person who was there. Yeah. And then I can tell you where I was on what day, basically. But
yeah, something's gotta jog it. Like,
yeah.
Like we were practicing the other day, and drinking coffee is new for Dal.
Oh, really?
And that made me think of like us doing night drives in the van, and he would always drive, and he would drink those 5-hour energy things. And he'd be like, literally talking to me like he was on speed. And he'd be like, I'd be in the front seat. They'd be like, the great thing about these is, there's no caffeine. So it's like, it's not like I'm drinking coffee. It's no big deal at all. It's like, if you see it on the thing, it's all natural. So we're good.
We're solid.
I'm just always be like, yes, yes, you were driving.
Everything's good. Yeah.
I am not driving.
Yeah.
Yes, natural. Get us to Fort Worth, Texas, Dal.
This little vial of
It's a vial of fucking poison syrup to drive you across Texas all night.
Oh my God. We were playing with Flag in Florida.
Okay.
And we had some gig that we had to get back for in Ontario. Like we finished, we had the weirdest interaction with Keith Morris ever. Like the first time, like we spent a whole tour together with him, and he barely talked until the last day. And
tell me your weird experience.
Okay, well
I'll drop another one.
Okay, we'll go toe to toe with Keith Morris. But the first time I had a weird experience with him, it was in Charleston, North or South Carolina. I can never remember. But we're backstage, and and Des Cadena is doing his warm-ups, and Steven Egerton, he's doing his warm-ups, and Chuck Dukowski's kind of just staring in the mirror and just kind of getting himself in the zone, and Bill's just kind of getting his wrist warmed up. And I look over at Keith, and Keith stops me because we're coming off the stage, and he's just like, "Hey man, do you warm up, man?" And I'm like, "Not really, no, man." And he's just like, "Well, here's what you got to do, man." And I'm like, is anybody else saying this shit? He's just going like this. And he's like, you got to get the germs off, man. And just he just starts going. I can't even describe what he was doing, but and I started doing it with him because it's Keith Morris. What
else are you going to do?
What are you going to do? You're going to do this with Keith Morris standing there. And somebody walked by and just thought had the craziest look on their face. But after that, Keith was like, okay, I can talk to this guy. And so me and Keith were sitting in the backstage area at the next show in Florida, and it was just me and him, and that Martin Scorsese Shine a Light Stones concert documentary was on. And I was like, hey Keith, do you like the Stones? He's like, I fucking love the Stones. And then we kind of went off on the Stones, and after that we were cool. But the weird story was that he was
the first one wasn't the weird story.
That was the intro to the weird story. The weird story was I went on their tour bus to get something. Des was showing me something, and I saw what I thought was like a squirrel or something at the bottom of the bunk. I was like, hey, what's that? And then an arm came from the top bunk and reached down and grabbed what I thought was a squirrel. Turned out to be one of Keith's dreads, and just pulled it back up into the bunk.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So that was him pulling his own dread out.
Yeah, dread fell out during the night. And
alarming.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Very
was
alarming.
I cold shudder runs through my body when I think about that dread. I thought it was an animal. I swear to God.
Pretty much is.
Yeah. Pretty much is alive. Yeah. That's my Keith story. What do you got?
Played a show. Black Lungs played a show with them or a few shows with, I guess, Flag, or maybe the one he was doing before that.
Was it the one with Dimitri? There was Off.
Off. It was with Off.
Yeah. Okay.
So we played the Ontario shows and Quebec shows.
Cool.
And in Montreal, we did a Gun Club cover.
Oh, cool.
And we came off stage and we talked to him a bit in Toronto and not much. And then he came into our dressing room after the Montreal gig, and he was like, that Gun Club cover is so cool, man. And then he was just launched into this thing where he was like, it reminded me of, I used to work at this fishing store with Bill Stevenson, and we'd listen to the radio all day at this fishing store. And then just went into this deep story about the radio at this fishing store. And our bass player Phil was kind of getting the most of it.
Yeah.
And the rest of us just kind of would just Mysterio'd out of there.
Yeah,
and Phil was just crushed and trapped.
Yeah, he got punished.
Yeah, he really got punished. And it just went so quickly from we're like, oh, he's gonna drop like a Jeffrey Lee Pierce story on us right now. Wrong.
Yeah, wrong.
Wrong.
No, he's gonna go for a while. Yeah, that was one of the things about the flag. That was one of my favorite things about the Flag tour is that it was like, I mean, all the guys are like just complete legends. It was an amazing thing to be on that tour, but there was always a point where, in retrospect, you started getting punished by your heroes, which is just a strange experience where you're like, I really look up to this person, but I don't know when this conversation's going to end, and I have somewhere to be, and I don't know how to exit it without looking like a dick. Like, it was just kind of a tough.
Well, it's an odd thing. I mean, with just, you meet anyone that you feel like you have a relationship with.
Yeah, you've heard.
Because you've been listening to them for so long, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to find out they're normal humans sometimes.
It is. Yeah. With,
not disappointing. Like, I mean, just like, well, you just get into odd situations.
You get into odd situations.
Like the first time, like we did some shows, Bill Stevenson was in a band called Only Crime.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, I can't believe I get to see him drum.
Oh yeah. What a
every
treat.
night. And I like walked up into the dressing room the first day and he was just like many clubs in America, just no door on the toilet. And just like my first interaction with Bill, just like Bill taking a shit, no door, me walking in the dressing room being like, hey, and he's like, hey, I'm Bill. Nice to meet you. This tour's going to be fun. I was like, here we go.
Here we go is right.
Here we go.
Oh man. I just remembered one more Keith story. Him talking about opening for the Cramps in LA with Circle Jerks, and he was talking about how his guitar player broke a string and there was a guy with a spotlight, and so the guitar player had to re-string the guitar on stage. I guess this is before the days of having two guitars. So the guitar player is re-stringing, and then Keith made the spotlight guy go on the guy stringing the guitar, and was berating his own guitar player while he's restringing the guitar, which is just a strange story to tell, I would say, to kind of bring that up. But then later that night, it was the final show of the tour, and like he had been going off on very unpredictable rants in between songs, and everyone Steven, who was doing an amazing job replicating Greg Ginn's stuff, and would just kind of wait until Keith was done and then start the next song or whatever. And there had reached a bit of a tipping point that night where Keith was just like on this rant. He's like, and then this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and then everyone's just kind of like, people are starting to, and then he just keeps going, and another thing, and then Steven goes, all right, and then clicks on the guitar. It was one of the funnier things I've ever seen. And I was actually, it was the last show of the tour, and or one of the last shows of the tour, and I was standing next to Ian MacKay, and we were watching this happen, and I was just like, this is a surreal moment. I'm watching Keith Morris get the cane from his own guitar.
You know what? I'd like to tie a bow on all this Keith Morris stuff. Wouldn't it be really disappointing if we didn't have any Keith Morris stories?
Oh my God.
If you just met him and you're like, what was Keith Morris like?
Chill.
He was like super quiet guy.
Yeah, he was really chill. He was just,
that would be horrible.
Meditating and, did some yoga and then went on stage.
Really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very nice, but like,
yes,
I think we're lucky to have the stories.
I think so too. It's like I think in retrospect, like he is a very eccentric man, and I'm happy that he is. It's awesome meeting these guys and knowing that they are regular guys. They're also wild. They're also pretty nuts.
I mean, we got time to get that weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, right?
Yeah.
Dreads.
I told you before we started recording, I've started, in all seriousness, wearing a cowboy hat this year. So I'm on my way.
Yeah, you're on your way. First you get the cowboy hat, then you get the dreads. We'll see. We'll check in next year and see how you're doing. Well, I mean, we've totally covered all the things that I wanted to go over, and once again, I just want to say, check out Doom's Children, Flower Moon, the single out now. What can we expect in the near future? Or
I just feel like it's a very summer record.
Yes.
So hopefully, like, new song each month. Get the record out. Like, there's a full length that's done. It's just like the vinyl's getting pressed right now.
Yes.
So hopefully the record will be out fully by the end of summer, if not like early September. But yeah, like new song coming out every month, and then working our way back to getting on the road.
Live rock and roll.
Which I'm very excited about, because I feel like this band could really go off on a tangent.
Yes.
And like really jam and like play differently and yeah, that's, very exciting.
Yeah, it's something that that you haven't done before, and it's not something that's done that much anymore to begin with. I mean, it's kind of I've only seen I saw like when you go see like a Derek Truck show or whatever, like you get to see something that is never replicated again, and that's really
for sure.
Cool, So that's really cool. I very much so look forward to seeing the project live.
Come out, just hop on. I feel like that's a thing too, where I'm just like, oh, we're in Hamilton. Let's just get Luke up there tonight.
Be my pleasure.
Just, and as I said earlier, like, what are we playing the song in?
Yeah.
I'd be like, notes don't matter.
Notes don't matter.
Just play any.
The color is red.
Play any notes.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Join us for some notes.
Whatever you please. Well, Wade, thank you so much for joining me in beautiful Westdale, Hamilton, Ontario, and hail rock and roll. Born to Roam, episode whatever.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for joining me, buddy.